Welcome back to Vintage Steel Garage. Today we're going to carry on working on the 911 prep for our road trip to France. We're going to do an oil change and an oil filter change, and we're going to look at the camber and caster, and first of all get those camber and caster nuts freed up so when it does go to the garage for the tracking, get that set up. Okay, so we've got the 911 in the garage ready to carry on work. We're going to be changing the oil. This will probably surprise you if you've not got a 911. All the oil, full change if it was a fresh engine, 12 litres. Yep, 12 litres. If it's only an oil filter change, it's just the 8.4 litres. So it's quite an expensive fuel change, and they recommend it every 5,000 miles. So we've got some oil. I can't remember where I put it now. I think it's something like 540, fully pathetic oil, and a new filter for it. And the other thing we're going to be having a look at, as I said, is the caster and camber angle. Now, I've had a hunch that there's something wrong with this, because on the little camber nuts, which are basically eccentric nuts, it's drastically different on the rear from one side to the other. On one side you had new suspension, on the other side hasn't. I think really, unless it's had a knock or something, those should be quite close to each other in the settings. And the other thing is, if you rub your hands over the tyres, you can feel like a sort of a, and I've replaced these tyres, you can feel like a sort of a sawtooth one way compared to the other, as if it's fighting itself, trying to pull itself in. And basically if you run your hands over, so if you run one way it's smooth, and you pull back you can feel an edge. That's a sign. And there's also a very strong smell in the garage now of burning rubber. Now if I'd been really razzing it, maybe on a track day or a burnout, yeah, I'd expect the garage to stink of rubber. But this is, I've just been on a little slightly spirited drive just to warm it up to change the oil. So I've got a feeling the camber or toe in, probably more likely the toe in, is incorrect on the rear of this car, and that could explain the very skittish feeling it has when it goes over a bump. So we're going to do some simple checks on that first before we jack it up, and I'll show you what these are. Okay, so I've got the alignment tool underneath the car at the back. It's a very simple tool. I'll bring it out in a minute and show you, but basically it touches on the inside of the rim at the front and back, and of course if you're looking down on it, let me try and just balance this camera somewhere. If you, oh, that's a bit low. So very simply put, if you're looking down on the rear wheels, so my fingers at the top are the front and those are the rear, if those are the wheels there parallel, exaggerated, that would be toe in. Let's get something better. Right, so to explain, if these were your rear wheels like this, if these were parallel, that's the distance from the top to the bottom, from the top and to the bottom is parallel. That would be parallel tracking. Now that would be perfect, that gets optimum speed, straight line speed and performance, but the reality is it makes your car a bit twitchy. What you definitely want is toe, you don't want toe out. There's probably a reason why, and people will post why there's a reason for toe out, but I'm not quite sure what it is, because basically it's trying to pull the car apart. So what naturally happens is cars have a little bit of toe in, and when you accelerate they will usually straighten up as well, and it just keeps it a bit better. But what you don't want is exaggerated too much toe in, because the tyres are scrubbing. Now I've just put the devices under here, and I've probably got, I'll have to measure it exactly, but I would say on the end it's about 10 mil of toe in on the front. So that means basically the tyres are pointing in and fighting in, scrubbing each other, and when you go over a bump it will jump around all over the place. And I had the feeling of that when I drove it. As compared to the Boxster, feels very skittish, along with the fact that I can run my hands over, I can feel it. I'm going to show you underneath what we've got and you'll see the issue. Now we've got this beam in place here, you can see it's got a spirit level on it, and the bar goes out, touches the rim there. Let's just see if we can zoom in. So it touches the rim there, and on this side you can see it's not possible to touch the rim. It's about 1 centimetre inside. And then when I bring this back this way, we'll just show you at top. I'm going to now put it on the back edge of the wheel. So we just get that on the rim there, that's touching. Now at this end it's touching that side of the rim, and on this side it's also touching the rim on the inside. Just go a little bit further in. It's also touching on the rim on the inside, and I haven't actually adjusted that, whereas you can see on the other side. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to shorten it for the inner end and then bring it to the back, and then we can measure we'll zero it in and measure what the angle is. The graduations on here are in 1/16 of an inch and millimetres, and it is past the 10mm point. It's probably about 12mm of toe in. That is a lot of toe in. So one of the other jobs we said we'd do while we're down here is change the oil. So this is a 8mm Allen key. Now if you can't get the purchase on it with a spanner like that, you put the Allen key on like that and hook a spanner in like that, you can get a bit of extra leverage there. Right, watch me make this drop everywhere but where it should. Right, we think we have it lined up. Let's see. Oh yeah, all over the place. Let me explain to you how this works. Now then, you'll see on here basically a large mark and then two other marks at 90 degrees. These are basically the eccentric cam. I assume there's more on this side than that side. So basically if you wind this round here, it will push this arm out, and if you push this lower arm out, you basically increase the negative camber. So that's for the camber. This one at the back is the same, virtually hidden behind my newly painted anti-roll bar, so we'll have to drop that down. This rear one here is the same with a big mark, then 90 degree marks. This will affect the actual toe in and toe out, so it's probably these that need to be increased to do the toe in. So what I'm going to do is take the anti-roll bar off again, just drop it out of the way, take these pins out, free them off, so I know they will move and this wheel will move and help the guy that's going to set it up for me. Meanwhile, oil catastrophe all over the floor. So what I'm going to do here is just mark these to the centre mark here, because obviously I'm keen to know how far off it is. So you can see we've got this bolt out now. Those are the graduations on the end. Basically the washer is just eccentric and that's held in the frame. So this will then move, if I show you this way. So if that's held in the frame, that will go off centre. So the dreaded curse of the Porsche has struck again. This bolt has freed off and is rotating. This bolt here is not, and I'll tell you what it's doing. It's revolving, and it's basically it's a metal elastic bushing here with an aluminium insert, and guess what, the aluminium insert has frozen onto the shaft of this. So as I'm rotating this, I can just hear the rubber noise, which is meaning the aluminium blocks has debonded from this. So this, there's only one way to get past this. You've got to cut this bolt off, replace this arm. So to do that, I'm going to take my anti-roll bar off, which I just fitted. I'm going to make sure I can free these ones up either side, and then I know my problem is just one suspension arm, not the toe arms as well. Anti-roll bar out the way. This lower bracket here for the toe arm. I'm hopeful, famous last words, this one should come out okay, because this is a fairly new arm. So I'm hoping there is a bit of movement on this, that this will come out, and then I can grease this one up, check on the other side. So I've got 4 of these to do. Toe bars either side and camber bars, which are this one. Yay! So this one's come out okay. I'll clean this thread up, grease this up, put this back in, and we've got 2 out of 4. Good. Now I've got the nut off this lower toe arm, but I've got a sneaky feeling this is going to be seized. Why do I say that? I say that because it's making no attempt to rotate when I took the nut off. So I reckon this is going to be seized in the rubber. We'll try little movements to get it going and see what we can do. So unfortunately, even though I've got the nut off this is not coming up, and it feels like it's turning the rubber. So I'm going to have to bite the bullet and take the actual arm off. It's going to have to come off. So this is going to be is it a 19? Is it an 18? It's an 18. That pin cut through. So you can see I've actually had to saw the arm off basically here. This was just to allow enough access for the saw to get in, so I've cut through that side, and now I've got to just cut down this side here. I'm going to put the camera down because I haven't got a stand to hold it, but you can see there where I've got to cut down there. Okay, so in true Porsche fashion, this just got expensive. On the passenger side, the bar, this toe arm, which has got a ball joint at one end and a pivot at this end, an eccentric cam, that has adjusted. The top, sorry, the one in front of it, the coffin arm, has adjusted, so the passenger side's okay. Driver's side, stuck. The usual aluminium and steel reaction, and it's stuck. So what I've had to do is cut the arm off first of all to get clearance in, to get my saw in, my power saw, to then cut either side of the bolt. It's the only way you're going to get it out of the subframe, and be careful because the subframe's aluminium, the bolt's steel. What's easier to cut? Yes, exactly. So you're going to be careful with that. And then, so I'm going to need a new toe lower toe arm, lower control arm, rear control arm, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to need the front control arm, which is also called the coffin arm, and I'm also going to need this arm as well, this fork, because this, I don't know if you can hear it, probably not, but it's got play there, and that will vary the toe in and toe out when you accelerate. It's going to pull back. When you brake, it's going to go forward, so it's going to affect it. So I need a new one of those, new coffin arm. So that's really a whole new suspension on that side, other than the two top arms. So it's getting expensive, but it's Porsche. So that's all for now. Unfortunately, the battery in my power saw is not man enough to cut more than one bolt. So we're now waiting 2 hours for that to recharge. Cheap Chinese shouldn't have bought it. Anyway, we're now waiting for that to recharge. So please like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon with part 2, when we should get all the suspension back together, take it to the garage for the 4-wheel alignment. Oh, but one good bit of news I forgot to tell you all. It's passed its MOT. So, it's looking promising for Le Mans, but if it doesn't, back up Boxster. See you soon, bye.